If it could go from your teeth to the
Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet. We're here today on planet Earth, and we have people from all over the universe and universes because we are Alien Civilizations Exist group with famous people here that are authors and speakers. And I'm excited to bring you a friend of mine and a couple of friends of mine I met back at the Alien event in 2024, and these guys are good guys, and they sure can't eat a lot. So, no, seriously, we're going to talk about how we all are involved in ET Talk, and why would three different authors and three different producers and having their own show come together just because we can, and we got to do something about this narrative out there. So I'm going to introduce Brent Luter and Jeff Rennell, and they're both in Salt Lake, and they seem to work well together, putting stuff together and making things happen with their hands, because that's where we're going these days. So I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves however they want to, but Brent wanted me to mention TJ 3B Triangle, because that's one of the brands that he does with Jeff and me. Jeff has E-Talk TV, and I have ET Talk TV. So he thought he'd marry us together last year, and we've only done one show together, I think. So, Brett, you tell us all about it, and then we'll do the Jeff thing.
So, yeah, the show, the TJ3B Triangle with the on the front, was originally me, you, TJ, and our former co-host who decided to leave the show. We wish her all the best. And so we needed another J name to fit into the title, the TJ3B Triangle, to fill up the J spot.
Oh.
And, not the other spot, the J spot. And, first J that came to mind was my brother, Jeff Rennell, out in Salt Lake. He's a TV show producer. He has a platform, and he practices theta healing. And I can't help but think that he's going to have a book at some point in the near future. He's got a lot to talk about. And so we're back together again. The TJ3B Triangle rides again. And but it's not a pony. It's a triangle-shaped spaceship. And we're all sitting on top of it with our cowboy hats going, wee, as we rock through space.
So number two. And Jeff Rennell from Salt Lake City, close to Las Vegas, because I know you hang out there because you got family. So here's to your daughter. Yay, daughter, I hope you see this, because your father's a very handsome guy. Okay, Jeff, you got it. What you got to say?
Well, I just want to first thank both of you guys for bringing me onto the show and letting me be a part of this show. I'm very excited about it. I've wanted to share hosting abilities with other people as well. The first show I was on, we had a few different hosts, and it was a lot of fun. And so I've been doing my show by myself for quite some years. So it's nice to be back with friends on a show and not have to do everything myself. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more shows with you guys. The reason you haven't seen me, Teresa, is because I've kind of just like been vegging out for the last few months. Life has been interesting the last couple of years. So I think life is finally relaxing and getting back to a norm for me. And so I'm just kind of taking it easy for a few months. But now that the summer months are here, we're getting ready to start to go out and do some researching and adventures and have some fun. I know I'm definitely going to hit a few conferences this year, so well, this summer at least. And so I'm looking forward to all that and hoping we can get together and hang out again. I don't know what your guys' plan is for the Alien event again this year in Las Vegas, but I definitely plan on being out there. So I'm hoping that we can all hang out and have some fun.
Sounds good to me. Folks, before we get started, I'm just going to do a quick infomercial on this book. This is by Brd Olsen. Hope you can see it. It's really cool. If you haven't seen it on Facebook, there it is. I'll read it back to you, but it's just such a cool cover. You can see like the Ascension. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about that because I know Jeff would love to ask him how the heck he actually got a book done. Because they're both working men. They're muscle movers. But this is Agents of Ascension that we've been accused of being for public relations, being that I have ET Talk and Jeff has E-Talk. So between the two of us, Brd Olsen has smartly put us together. But Brad, if you don't mind, tell us the history, because you said you put 20 years of your life in this book. And I tell you what, it's thick, folks, and it's got beautiful pictures. And let me move this one over. It's got beautiful pictures in it that, I like to look at the pictures. I'm not much for reading. I'm only kidding. But I do like to look at pictures. And I don't even know what this is. Something about San Francisco ley lines or something. Well, he's got some fancy stuff in here. And, for those intelligent beings that like to show up and do think tanks with me, and Jay Widener and those producer types. But anyway, we'll see what Brd Olsen has. 20 years, Brett? Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't know where 20 years came from, but I first did the lecture in 2013 in the San Francisco Bay Area. That became the template for the article, which you just showed up. I reproduced that. The cover of the article. Phenomena Magazine was kind enough to give me a color cover billing for my article. It was called "I'm a PR agent for the Inner Earth People!" like exclamation point. Because I had this revelation hanging out with Diane Robbins, the ambassador to Telos, and preparing an article originally intended for UFO Magazine. I began to realize that certain cultures, will just say, that supposedly reside within the Hollow Earth were slowly allowing information to be released as if they were gatekeeping, as if a PR expert was gatekeeping information, to slowly wake humanity up to their true spiritual selves and their true history, and hence their future potential. And it was a revelation for me. And then I realized that anyone who spreads that kind of information about self-growth, overcoming fear, freeing your mind from negative thoughts, transmuting your negative energy, in any shape or form, really is an agent of ascension. The idea being that all of us need to come together to ascend together. So while individuals might be able to do it, and I know in Ascended Master lore, there's stories of people that just poof right out in front of other witnesses, and it's not spontaneous combustion. They just disappear, and they may see a little trail of light go up, and supposedly that's how an individual can ascend. But if the whole earth and humanity together is going to ascend, supposedly the cultures on the inner earth that are more advanced than us, they don't live in quite our density. They're lighter density, higher frequency, supposedly want all of us to ascend with them and the planet. That supposedly is the plan, but the overarching theme of the book is that we are all agents of ascension if we're talking about self-growth, improving society, freeing consciousness, and helping those that need help.
Sounds good. There's a lot of information. Folks, look how thick this thing is. I'm working backwards here, but look at that. That's a lot. And he's got a little back, and he's even got a picture of himself in here.
No.
Very Yeah, you're in here.
I'm not.
Well, then who
Don't
was that?
show it. Don't show it. It's
With
not
your
me.
hand? That is you. No, seriously.
It's not.
It's in the back. Hold on, I gotta find the bag. But
I
it's a
know.
nice. It's
I'm
a
asking
nice.
you. Don't show it.
He's got.
Please don't show it.
It looks like you're calling in the wolves. Oh, it is. There's some real wolves in here. Where was
Okay.
that picture? I should have marked it. All right. Well,
All right,
anyway.
now I'm curious. You might have to show it, TJ. I'm curious. What?
Well, let me.
So Jeff, how's Salt Lake City treating you?
Yes, what's this photo about?
What photo?
Well, you know, you were here.
There's no photo.
Why? Is there a list?
I think she's determined to
TJ.
find that photo.
I don't know. I
TJ,
don't know.
can you snap out of it here? Let's keep this going.
Okay, y'all, it's a big book. All right, it's a good book. So if you want to get it, I
Thank
guess
you. I appreciate that.
you order it. Well, at least tell them how they get their copy.
You can order that book on David Hatcher Childress's legendary Adventures Unlimited Press catalog or from their website. It's quite an honor to have my book into that catalog. This guy's been doing it for 30 plus years, and all kinds of really cool books are in that catalog. And he writes articles for the catalog. And so I've saved some from like 25 years ago. They're collector's editions. So it's a real honor to be involved in that. So adventuresunlimitedpress.com. You can go check that out. Or if you were lucky enough to be on the mailing list and get a hard copy, you can order information is in that. But check out David Hatcher Childress's Adventures Unlimited Press, $29.95.
Wow, that's a good price.
Thank you in advance for all your wonderful purchases.
Folks, I'm a publisher too. I've been doing this. I inherited that from my side of the family, Thomas Printing into TJ Marks Publishing. And I went over when everybody else did into digital marketing. So when I did, of course, I went with Amazon, like all the big publishers did, and we were promised this and that. So my book's on there, and I'm Lulu, which a lot of us started out with Lightning Source. And there's a whole history of us publishers online that all came and went as small publishers, but I actually started binding them and gluing them and all that kind of stuff in a big old warehouse where it got hot and had big fans. And we just worked and worked around the United States, you know. And my family was from the paper mill company, so I know all about that. I said, Monroe, let me shout out to Monroe, Louisiana, an old Nazi paper mill, because we were sawyers and we had sawmill. DNA in our blood. So just so you know, a lot of Americans, we did follow that railroad. Now we're going to get on because I have my sister, my older sister, which most people don't even know I have one, but she's my stepsister, listen to the show tonight. So shout out to Jeanette Hotard from actually Bossier. She's got a big fancy plantation house over there, you know, the Southern style, all that. So I want to give a shout out to her because she was reading Brett Luder's book today, and we went to lunch and we had to talk about it. She says, how did you get into UFOs? But she started believing in all this stuff once she started talking about it. Well, it's not unbelievable. So, you know, in my world where I live with the people I hang out with, we're all like, I don't know, Jay Widener, Cliff High. I'm trying to think of some people that are my age. We all grew up believing in all this heavy stuff. And then along came baby Brett Luder. And I don't even know if he's a baby boomer. I think he barely fits in there. But he was always knocking on people's doors and doing journalism and getting in the right place. And tell us about your deal with Fate magazine and ET magazine. What was that called? UFO magazine? You remember that one? Him and his wife? Yeah. Tell me a little bit how you got with them. Tell people there's history in this book, folks. Tell them about that.
Well, I just was I'm a journalist, and I started doing lots of writing, and I started out writing about music and doing music reviews, and that was really cool. Brought me in touch with a lot of famous people and got to interview them on the telephone or meet them backstage and take pictures and do interviews. Got to interview John Densmore of the Doors in person backstage after worked at Chico State, for one example. Yeah. But I also was into UFOs. So I had some mentors, DNA, who's now into comedy. You can find my interview with him on my show, Brett Luder Show, on BitChute and Rumble. And a couple other writers. I was writing for Magical Blend magazine, and I really wanted to do bigger magazines. And UFO magazine was like the biggest UFO magazine of its kind. And so I just pitched them an article and they accepted it.
Well, tell me their names again. They're friends of mine on Facebook, and I used to converse with them a lot.
Well, yeah, they're not on Facebook very much, but Bill and Nancy Burns,
Yeah,
UFO Field Legends, and Bill Burns was also UFO Hunters on the History Channel. And so I've got to meet Bill Burns in person, but I never met Nancy Burns in person. But Nancy and I would communicate. She was my editor, and she very graciously didn't edit a lot of my stuff, so I always tried to make it easy for her. But yeah, I was part of that magazine for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years before it tanked, like a lot of print media.
Well, yeah, we went through huge publishing difference, folks, and this social media seems to be where it's at these days. But yeah, AI is late sleeping over, and we'll talk a lot about that. It's one of my favorite subjects. Well, Jeff Rennell, do you have anything in the publishing business with all of that, or yours is mostly experience finding out about health and healing, right? You're more of a healer than a writer, publisher. You want to talk?
Yeah, just, with my background, I've never been comfortable in writing and stuff. That's not, where I've felt my strongest confidence, and so I haven't done it yet. But I mean, like Brent said, I think I have a book in me. I just need to figure out how to, find some extra time to get that out and get some words on paper. But yeah, I do feel like I have things to share. That's one reason why I like to go out and speak and do speakings and teach classes and stuff like that, because I have a lot to share. And for me, it's easier to just speak it than to write it, at least at this point. But yeah, I would love to have a book out at some point. Yeah,
Well,
but publishing, no.
Is if folks, the easiest way to get started these days is honestly is just do a PowerPoint. It's simple. It'll show you how to put a picture, put some words with it. Before long, you'll have about 10 pictures and 10 chapters of things you want to talk about. And then just go in and on Microsoft Word make you a document and type it out. And you can use Grammarly on the background with AI these days. They'll just check your grammar. But you'll have your own style, how you talk. And that's important. And people can tell the difference in AI and how you talk. And I like my white papers. I've really grown into writing. Of course, I had written for years and years. I've been writing the world. I was an investigator, so I had to write good reports, findings of fact. So I grew up writing, so it's my cup of tea. But now we've all gone to seeing our faces. And, for a woman that don't like to wear makeup, I used to wear tons of makeup when I was younger, but as you get older, you like protecting your skin and your hair. This is natural hair color. And you sort of get away from that stuff. And I guess men are just going to have to accept me the way I am, But, after you get to 70s, you don't care that much about healing, but yourself. So this is why we like to be out there and giving you guys some narrative. Now, the ET Talk, the reason we're marketing that and promoting that, and we have brands, Brett Luger has always had his own brand, but I've always seen it as esoteric guides like with Brad, another friend of ours, Brett, I just love him, Brd Olsen. Isn't that the way you say his name, Brett Olsen?
I think so.
Yeah.
Some people pronounce it Smith, but most people pronounce it Olsen.
All right, so Brd Olsen, I just love him, and he just followed me around where I was speaking, and I just love him. He's just a good. Of course, Brett was right there with him, so I had like two big, tall, good-looking bodyguards, and I thought, well, that must be my people usually at these events because they're so dashing, and maybe not, but we'll see. So there's all types of events that did make it through the 2020. But these podcasters really caught on. So we're live streaming now on 3 of my YouTube channels and 3 of my Facebook channels. And we'll get back into this because I used to be really big in social media and sort of made a name for that. But I've got thousands, literally thousands of videos out there if you can find them. And I put them under various different words because that's what we do, tags. So, Brett, I want to start back with you and then I'll go back to Jeff. Is the fact that with you being an author, there's people out there that are just now beginning to understand where ascending. And that is the PR ascension, and you explained why you think it's if they're into a certain category of life. Would you say that's after you get past food, clothing, and shelter level? Because how do people? One of my publishers, I don't know if you remember UFO Digest,
I do.
Dirk Vanderploeg out of Toronto.
Right.
He was always telling me he was amazed with what I could write, and that I didn't know certain people in the business. He just thought this ET business was everybody, they all knew, and he thought he had it down, that this was a clique. And then here I come along, and I'm talking about Andromeda this and spacecraft that, and these things we're doing underground. And
he also used to write a column for a UFO magazine back when I was writing for it. So I'm familiar with Dirk. But to your question, yes, we have to survive first before we can ascend. That's the theory anyway. I don't know if anyone really knows for sure, because a caveman could die, and then what happens to his soul? Does it just get recycled until you get to a point where you're able to gain enough knowledge of yourself to where you can raise yourself up to where you even can ascend? So I would say, yeah, you have to survive first, build society around you to build up, to get to the next level. And then once we're past survival issues, at least to a large extent, we can start to focus on the self, work on ourselves, So yeah, I think it's a progression. I'm not sure why it's set up that way. Maybe it's just a spiritual carrot for us to strive. Otherwise, maybe we wouldn't strive. I'm not sure. Some people say we need to suffer so that we can strive. I don't really agree with that, but a lot of people adhere to that. So I'm not sure why it's set up this way, but yeah, ascension, the idea is, and many cultures speak of it, many traditions speak of it, is where humanity is allegedly going, the next level of our evolution, in a higher vibration, and hopefully a higher minded society along with it.
Well, Jeff, what do you think? You were shaking your head. So how do you feel about this leveling up, so to speak? But I'm going to say it to you, like I said to him, to be fair, as a journalist, I am one, senior. So food, clothing, and shelter. So once, that was the thing that the UFO Digest, Dirk Vanderploeg, my publisher, said that, well, Tracy, people aren't like you. They can't get past food, clothing, and shelter. We're out here trying to make a living, barely making ends meet. And you have all this extra time and to write and do all this stuff, but everybody doesn't have it. And so he thought maybe my extraterrestrial point. He said, well, why are you getting visited and I'm not? So can you speak to that after you get past the basics?
As far as ascending goes, well, I think first of all, I want to hit this point. I'm shaking my head earlier because of the comment. I forget who you were speaking of, Brett, but saying that we have to suffer. Suffering is a choice. Okay, nobody has to suffer for anything. It's a choice.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And so, in my perspective, the way I look at life and all of this, because that is my background. I've been studying spirituality for a good 20 years now, and I dive deep into it for a good 10 years, and that's all I focused on until I had my aha moment. And that aha moment was realizing that I can be anything, I can do anything, whatever I want to experience, I can go experience. But the ascension process, in my opinion, is a state of mind. It's understanding who I am. It's learning to love myself unconditionally. And that goes through every experience I have in my life. So whether, like, just this week, Brett saw me. I mean, I had a very stressful job. So I had a lot of challenges where I was getting frustrated. And so it's up to me to be able to look at myself and go, well, why am I getting frustrated, and calm myself down? And so to me, it's always just a state of mind. I think everybody can accomplish ascension. We are always progressing towards ascension, in my opinion. Even when we're in our darkness and we don't know, and we're not focusing on ascension and stuff, we still truly are, in my opinion, working towards ascension. We might be asleep at the moment, and not seeing the lessons that we're going through. But at some point in your existence, you can stop and look back at your experiences and learn from them. And so to me, I think we're always in that ascension process. We're just unfortunately right now we're going blindly because we're not taught properly, in my opinion, how to truly be a spiritual person in a human body.
Okay, so I'll agree with that. I've written several books, folks, out there. If you're interested in ascension, trace of ascension, ascension, what did I say? I've got ascension this, ascension that. I wrote knowing cosmology and ascension age 2012 and beyond. Back before it was 2012, about 2007. So I've got all kind of books out there on ascension. If you're interested, and go ahead, Jeff. You want to say something?
My biggest point to people out there, if you're trying to get to that point, don't worry about it. The more you stress about it and the more you feel like I need to ascend, I have to do this, the more you're pushing yourself away. It's about relaxing and just enjoying, being passionate about creation and life. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's, are you passionate about what you're doing? Are you loving it? Are you enjoying it? If not, you got to ask yourself why. What lessons are you there to learn if you're not enjoying it? So it's an amazing, I think life's an amazing thing. I mean, even when I'm in my ruts and my pits, I mean, I might not be enjoying it at that moment, but the things I get to learn from it and experience and learn about myself. And these last 2 years, I mean, they've been very challenging, but some of the things I've been able to see about myself and go, oh my God, I'm acting like a child. I'm doing this, I'm acting like a victim. I mean, just because of the way certain things had happened in my life, it kind of knocked me off of my center point, and I didn't realize I was acting that way. I didn't realize these programs were kicking up in me and creating, and I was doing these things. I wasn't paying attention to it until I went through it these last 2 years, and I was able to go, oh, wait a minute, look at how I'm behaving. Look at these programs I'm operating from. And now, because I can identify those programs, now I can start to switch it, and I can start to act from a higher perspective of unconditional love for myself and not like a victim. And so I think that's what's so beautiful about life. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, you're always in that ascension process. In my opinion, being awake, aware, enlightened, in my opinion, is just being aware, always progressing forward, always looking at yourself, loving yourself, and trying to learn and progress forward. Because no matter what we do, when you're ascending up, if you're ascending up and becoming a master, there's going to be a point where it's all new experience. And so to say you're not going to falter at some point, raising your vibration is a mistake, because I know me personally in my journey, I've raised my vibration and I've made mistakes and I've fallen, and then I've rose back up. And in those lessons, the one thing I learned, we don't need to earn our way back up. If I fall, if I fail and I do something wrong, I have to understand it, but it doesn't mean I have to re-earn my way back up there. It's remembering the vibration I was at and going right back to it, because you're doing yourself and creation a disservice if you feel you have to earn your way back up there and you sit in that lower energy for no reason. To me, it's always remember that higher vibration that you are. Remember it, put it into every cell of your body, put it into your heart, because there's going to be a day that you're having challenges and you have to remember what that high vibration feels like, because if you don't, you're never going to get back there. It's always about identifying feelings. It's really easy for us to identify a negative feeling and always go back in there. I mean, that's what we all run on, in these negative programs. And so as soon as we feel a little fear, it's so easy for us to get sucked back into those fearful thoughts of, I'm a victim, nobody loves me, I'm insecure, all these different things. When we identify that, boom, turn it around, start to find out, how do you love yourself again, and get back to that passionate, loving vibration.
That was good. Thank you, Jeff. That was a very good share. Red Leonard?
Every now and then I get some kind of, something coming out of me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Once you get a roll, and yeah, good. Well, that's good. You wind up being a good speaker after all. Get you going in that flow of consciousness, and that divine spirit kicks in, and your higher self we teach all that, folks. We've been teaching for years and years how to ascend and become more of a 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D. And we're up to 11D these days, 11 dimensions, but we work a lot with 5D. Now, author Brett, he really plays out west, mainly up around Chico and Sacramento. And he goes up there and he hangs out with all those Hollow Earth people. And, I get asked about them all the time. I went through my Hollow Earth experiences back and tracked down Mount Shasta and tried to find the door underneath. And there is one past the fence and over where only the people that live there. But believe it or not, if you do your history, you'll find those like I did. So there are entrance ways. But a lot of people just talk about the ascension door and the ascension rock. And, it's a way to get in touch with your higher self. And there's some people believe in Shambhala, Telos, all these things that happen after you pass over. And that once your divine essence has ascended, you can come and go where you please if you're an ascension master. Now, I've died 3 or 4 times, and so I sort of agree with that, and I've written about all that here in a minute. But let's hear Brett on ascension. And what did you find out? Because I know you love to talk about that mountain. And tell people what we're talking about. The history of Harold and me.
You're talking about Mount Shasta.
No, I want you to say it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it was 1925. The Ascended Master Saint Germain appeared to Guy Ray Ballard, aka Godfrey Ray King. And Godfrey Ray King wrote down what Saint Germain told him, and that became the first Ascended Master books in the West, called the I Am Discourses. Now, this had been going on in the East for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And you can see this in Asian traditions, like you mentioned Shambhala a little while ago, or Agartha. And there's Shanshu is another underground realm, supposedly under China. In the Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Tibetans, they all have underground traditions. And these underground civilizations supposedly gave rise to surface societies. And according to a Tibetan tradition, every 100 years, the king of the world summons the leaders of the world to get their instructions for the next 100 years. So the king of the world supposedly resides in Shambhala, which is, arguably an island, or it's the top of the world, or it's underneath Tibet and China. There's debate about what it really is. But the Hollow Earth has been absolutely fascinating for me, because if this is where civilization's really from, this has not been taught in schools. And it's just one of many things that when you start to study a particular subject and you go into the rabbit hole, it reveals at some point that things aren't what they really appear to be. And so to throw this back to ascension, we look at our spiritual traditions around the world, and we kind of, I'm a Christian, and so you look at the Bible, and the Bible teaches that Jesus ascended, and that's kind of really where they leave it. They don't really go into ascension very, very in a detailed kind of a way. We're just supposed to live the way Jesus did so we can get to heaven. And then they kind of almost in passing kind of talk about ascension. But I think that's what that really is. Getting to heaven really is ascension. That's maybe the next level for us. So I kind of forgot what the question was, but I'm meandering around a little bit, and I think I killed time for my slot.
So can I ask a question really quick? Does ascension have to be a place somewhere, or can ascension just be a place in our heart and a place in our soul?
It could. Why couldn't it be? Because I don't think we really know. I think
it's
either way, whichever destination, inward or outward, I think it's going to bring us to the same place. And I think the outward and the inward are connected. They're related.
I like what you just said there, because from a lot of things that I've studied, the last 10, 20 years, I think that is the biggest thing. It's the journey within now, and it's going inside. That is, I think, is the new journey right now that we're all going through, and it's to go inside and see ourselves.
Yeah, and know yourself better, because that, in the end, even if that doesn't get you to Shangri-La or Shambhala or Agartha or wherever, you're going to be a better person because of it. So
we're all a unit, folks. You know, it's no matter you come here alone and you die alone. I don't care what anybody else says to you. That's the way that we're set up as individual unit. So some people can choose the way they pass, especially over in the Middle East. They've learned how to sit and starve themselves to death, basically, until they just get to be a whisper. But what they think in their minds is part of the ascension they think. Now, we weren't taught that way over here in America, and we have more of a Christian type of atmosphere over here, although, you know, we all know what's going on over there with the world. And they're still fighting amongst themselves about who's right, about, you know, how they think. And so as an individual unit, you can only do so much. But the reason we do come together occasionally like this is the narrative. The narrative is extremely important because whatever we've learned, we have some similarity as individual units. And when you come together, you put that energy to good use. And so a lot of us have been doing this, and that's how a lot of my people that were coming on my radio show for years. I had one for over 12 years, and I had them on different places because they wanted to talk about what they were about and how they saw the life being better and how they could use their talents. And a lot of people believed in reincarnation, and a lot of them didn't. Some believed in predestination, and some didn't. Some believed in fate. So what I found out about Brett and Jeff is they were just easy to talk to. Not bad to you know, I don't know how you pick your other core teams or your units, but for video these days, it's like showing up. And once you get your basics, if you're my age, I'm going to be 74 this year. I always think a year in advance because I'm born the day after Christmas. But I look pretty good, I think, for old 74-year-old lady, you know, December 26th. So I think God's doing something right. My 95-year-old stepmother's sitting there. And so people are living longer. And we're going to live even longer. So the next part of the show, I want to talk about AI and how we're extending life now with other beings and how much of this is God's doing if we're all God is love and we are God. And many people in the ascension business, as the extraterrestrial business, believe we're out there from many planets, many galaxies, many universes, multi-universes, many dimensions. And a lot of us travel in our dream and in our other levels, besides once you go through a dream into a lucid dream and a hypnagogic state. And I study all levels of your brain and not just 7. Maybe we call it beta, alpha, beta, delta, gamma, sigma, tau. And we go on past tau, TAU is 6 really. And I always get the 6, which it was sigma tau. Now it's tau sigma because the sixth sense and the telomeres, and when so many of the people that put us under as anesthesiologists were figuring out where our conscious went when we were taken under. And since I had died so many times and had out of body and near death and extraterrestrial experiences, and lately another Bigfoot experience, which is very hard for me because I'm very realist, I'm very scientific. I was always investigating. It's very hard to prove to my brain what I'm looking at. But I just want to real quick, we'll go into the ET and the AI and how that's going to affect all of us because everybody's talking about the next level in our podcast and live stream that you're doing that. But I want to talk to Brett because he did a Bigfoot. So somewhere in there, we're going to do a little Bigfoot segment because this was my 3rd sighting in 74 years. And there were many years between, but I think they're important. But Brett right now and Jeff, I want to go to the AI part. Or should we just get the Bigfoot thing out of the way and then go to the next part? All right.
You tell us.
All right. Well, let's do. I'll just tell you and let them talk about it because I don't know if they've seen the Bigfoot. But we're talking about Gigantus pethicus is the way Giganticus or Gigantus depends on who you talk to. And a Yeti. And I'll just tell you the old story that I grew up reading in all the old ancient books was about they were here to protect us. And I had dreams and near-death experiences about them to protect the extraterrestrials that landed in Tibet. And all those flags they fly were always to mark their territory where they came down. And a lot of people believe extraterrestrials came and visited Earth in that area. And they were there, the Yeti, the white ones up in the mountains, the colored, helps camouflage. But over here where I am, I saw, they wouldn't call it a skunk ape because I didn't know when I saw the first or second one. I'll just tell you real quick, I was driving a big truck. One was in Missouri and one was in Arkansas late at night. And I didn't believe what I saw, but I went ahead and mentioned it back when I was writing the UFO Digest. Now, just I'm not famous for seeing them by any means because there's so many people that's their cult or their belief system, folk culture. But lately, last year, about May 17th, I think I saw one here at a park. Now, I didn't believe what I saw. I was in a nice Mercedes live screen. I living it up. My sister's a big Mercedes black. And we were zooming on out. We just got through camping. And even Brett had done a show with me that week in that UFO place. And it was weird. But I looked over as we were leaving the park, and behind one of these things that we didn't get, but we had the Mercedes, was a camping building. And I just glanced over and I saw something big, tall, brownish, moving forward, sort of like the picture you see. And I looked again. I just saw a Bigfoot. I just saw a Bigfoot. And my sister in front, and they're like, "What?" And then he said, "What? You saw a Bigfoot?" He said, "Well, you want to go back?" And I said, "No, he'll be gone by now." But I did see one. Why did they do it in the park? And so I didn't think much about it, so I sort of kept to myself. But then Jim, 2 weeks later, found that same park, a few years before, people had seen them, and they know it. At that park right here in Texas, in Austin, I think it's Palmetto Park. But anyway, we can. I need to write a paper on it. I haven't a year later. It's been really hard for me with the Bigfoot thing. But Brett knows people that really do believe in them. And I used to have those gentlemen, Kelly, married Lapsaritis or whatever his name was. And Brett used to stay with him about Bigfoots. But do you think I'm nuts because I've seen them, or Brett? And I'll let Jim
TJ,
talk.
long before you told me about Bigfoot, I thought you were nuts.
Okay. Well, just all on the same page.
So, yeah, you're speaking about Kiwani Lapsaritis and is at one time partner Kelly Rainbow Butterfly. And so, yeah, you're lucky. You've seen a Bigfoot 3 times. I've never seen one, but I've had plenty of experiences that I fully believe were Bigfoot experiences, most of which were at the home of Kiwani Lapsaritis from the summer of 2009 to the summer of 2010, 11, 12. I went to his house 3 different times, and man, they would put sounds and thoughts into your head. I would hear him hooting. I'd hear footsteps outside my tent. They would flick my tent, and it turned out they were scaring me until I wouldn't scare anymore.
Wow.
They were teaching me about my own fear, and I'll be grateful for them because it's really helped me in every aspect of my life, especially paying bills, fear of the electricity getting turned off or not paying your rent, or when those police lights come on in your rearview mirror and they're going to pull you over for a ticket. All those things used to really scare me, and I realized after my Bigfoot experiences that I was living with levels of fear, thinking it was normal, and that I really couldn't. I may have advanced to a certain degree, but I wasn't going to advance to a high degree until I could conquer my own fear. And the Bigfoot helped me do that. And I know there's friends. If some of my soccer buddies from Chico State University in Northern California, when they hear me talk about this, they just like, you are a psycho crackpot, right? But it is what it is. I've experienced some things, and I'm not ashamed of it. And earlier on in my life, it led to a couple different physical altercations, because you're after a soccer game, you're drinking beer, getting fired up, and people start talking smack. And at a certain point, even the best of us, it gets to us, But even that is a spiritual test to be able to take that and not get rattled, not get triggered. So I think you're really lucky and fortunate to have seen Bigfoot 3 times, TJ. And I would consider the Bigfoot agents of ascension in their own way, because they're advanced beings that live among us that stay away from us, supposedly because for the same reason the ascended masters stay away from us in large part, is because our thoughts are so violent and negative. And collectively as a society, we need to really raise our vibration. So that sounds cliche, I know, but the Bigfoot are all part of that whole big process.
Jeff, you got a Bigfoot story for us? You seen any?
I have not seen one, but I believe I had heard one. I was at Phenomicon about 4 or 5 years back, and actually, I was at home drinking coffee about 6 o'clock in the morning because I just got back from about a week and a half long research trip, and I just got back home and was sitting there, and my friend called me up, and we was like, "Hey, you got to get down here right now. Tomorrow, this guy Brad's going to take us out to the Ashley Forest and take us to some Bigfoot structures." And so, I've always been fascinated, but I was never a big Bigfoot guy at that time, and so I, of course, hightailed it out to Vernal and to Phenomicon. And so we hung out there, went to Blind Frog Ranch that night. The next day, we ended up going out Bigfoot searching. And this guy took us, I mean, directly to these structures. And, because he took us right there, and I don't like to be easily fooled, and so I'm questioning everything. And I'm there with my good friend Eric, who is a big Bigfoot guy, and so I'm asking him questions. This guy Brad is talking about the structure and about why they would make it and stuff. And so I kept looking to Eric, and he's like, "Yeah, this is true what he's saying, or this is what they understand." And so I'm looking at the structures and trying to see, are there any hack marks and stuff like that? And I didn't see any hack marks. So I got to give it to that. It looked like a true structure, twisted off pieces and stuff. But I saw things that day that were really amazing. But back to the Bigfoot thing. So we were there 20 minutes, about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And there were 6 of us out there, and we were still looking at the first structure. And I swear to God, in my life, Eric caught it on audio on the footage he was taking. We didn't capture the Bigfoot, but we did capture audio. And it truly did sound like a Bigfoot to me. I mean, I've never heard of Bigfoot before this, but if I was going to say something sounded like a Bigfoot, I would say it was that. Everybody in our group was, just running around going, "Oh my God, did you hear that?" But again, I'm a realist and stuff. So like a little bit later, I'm asking Eric, I'm like, "Hey, Eric, who do you believe this guy might have sent somebody out into the forest and made these noise?" Because like I said, he took us right there. So I'm wondering, did this guy put somebody out in the forest to make the noise? I don't know. But a little bit later on in that afternoon, we're out there, looking around, and my friend Eric was with this guy Raw, Arcturus Raw, if anybody knows him, and they were traveling for almost a week at this point. So Ra was tired. He went back to his vehicle and was back there and just sitting there. And he was recording, and he actually captured some more noises just like what we had heard earlier. So that makes me a little bit more confident that this guy didn't send somebody into the trees, because he probably would have had no idea Ra was going back. So why would he make the noise? Maybe this guy Brad was like, "Hey, we're going to pull a fast one on all these people. I'm going to take them to the spot. I want you to go over into the forest and you make some Bigfoot noise so I can make them all feel like this." So did the guy do it? I don't know, but it did sound like it. And then later on, we went on our own and we started to go through the Ashley Forest and go through different areas and stuff. And I saw things that were absolutely amazing that I am very, very curious now. And I want to investigate more into this, because there is an aspen tree. And if you're not familiar with aspen trees out there, they're kind of skinny white trees. They're not very big and they're kind of spread out. But what was amazing is, I'm telling you, 20, 30 yards looking into these aspen trees, somebody could easily, you might see the shadow of them walking past, but you're not really going to be able to describe what you just saw. And so I think they could hide very easily up there. But one of the aspen trees, it was a young tree, but it was still, I would say about that thick, a couple inches. And halfway up this aspen tree, it was twisted off. And I'm looking at it, and there's just no way. I mean, me, Brett, Brad Olsen. I mean, we could get a bunch of big guys out there, and we're not going to twist this branch apart or this tree like I saw there. And so some of the stuff we saw, and then there was these other when me, Eric, and Raw went off on our own a little bit later. We saw these big 20 to 30 foot trees that, and I didn't realize it at the time until Eric said something, but these trees were all together in this weird structure. So I'm looking at it and I'm just like trying to figure out how would nature create this? And there's no explanation. I mean, there would have to be some type of whirlwind to pick them all up, and then they would all have to fall perfectly to be stacked almost like a fence structure. And it was absolutely amazing. But it wasn't until Eric said something that I didn't notice that all of these trunks of these 20, 30 foot trees, none of them had branches on them. So somebody debranched all these trees as well too. But it was weird. And then these other trees that were bent over, entwined to the top of these other, tall 20-foot trees. And so it's just amazing. I kept looking at this stuff going, how would nature do this? And there's no explanation. And so I'm very, very curious now. I want to go out. I've been dying to go back out to the Ashley Forest, but I just haven't had time since then. And so, maybe I could get Brett one of these days and we can head out there. But I find it very amazing. I'm sold now. I was the original Bigfoot with Bob. What's that one from 1960s? The Yes, thank you. When I first saw that, I'm like, you know what? That's fake as can be. I'm looking at the bottom of the foot, and to me, it looks like a pad. But the more I've researched it,
Right.
I got some tapes on it and stuff, and I'm going to say it's real. I mean, I'm very, very curious now. So I'd like to know more.
Well, good. Well, folks, you can see we have some interesting topics, but they all seem to go together. Now, my brother-in-law in the other room, he's had 40 years of experience. He's got like 4 degrees, and he's a forensic lab person at the Department of Public Safety in Texas. And Brett and Jeff met them. I like to remember Brenda and Jim at the club after wherever that ran. Y'all met them. So he told me, which shocked me because he's think of that, 40 years of forensics. And I used to, as an investigator in Houston, had to go to the forensic labs. And they were just starting back then. I mean, really back in the early 80s. So, but he worked all the way up to just recently, the last 5 years, retired. But he told me, he was very sweet about it. But he said, I think what you saw there, right? He said, yeah, I've heard of them before, and I've sort of looked at that. And the fact that you didn't know when you saw that one, and the fact that I found, people on Google, he Googled Bigfoot, and he found out there was one right there at the same camp that we were. Now, that's just a coincidence. I didn't even know we were going to that camp. I just moved here from Florida, didn't know anything about where we were going or whatever. But the fact that happened, he did investigation, being a forensic being, and that's the way he's wired. So he looked into it, and he said he came up with thinking that they're interdimensional. Now, when I was younger in the 80s and used to go to Korean Age bookstore near Rice University as an investigator, I made a lot of money. I was like a female Magnum PI, if you ever saw that. By the way, I met him, by the way, when he had his, I think it was black velvet, wasn't it? Black velvet, black something. Anyway, we'd sit together. We had the same bodyguards back then. That's when I was psychic for Michael Jackson. He came over to see me about stuff going on in his life. And I could have a great show just about that, but we won't talk about it. But that was a good time. But where I'm going with this is, where am I going with this? I don't even know anymore.
Nobody knows.
When you see things sometimes in your life, you don't know whether to believe it or not, and to have somebody like Jim Thomas of Texas, DPS 40 Years Crime Lab, he's been on the television shows and documentaries. I'm sure you've seen him on there, you just don't know it. My brother-in-law doesn't do, but the fact that he was willing to go out on a limb to say he thought there was some in-depth studies that they could be interdimensionals. And why not? You know, we all may be interdimensionals. We all may just be putting our little cells down here as individual units for a short time. And some of us may come back on the wheel we study in Middle Eastern philosophy, the game of life, and wheel that world around. And some may be in areas that they believe in reincarnation, come back, maybe not as an ant or a bird or a dog, but maybe another human being. What if we come back? What if Jeff Rennell working with marble is actually Michelangelo? We don't know. So, you know, we don't know. You got to look at genealogy and the DNA if you believe in all the carbon dating and all that with DNA, like the Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, Salt Lake Temple. You know, they really believe in all that work they're doing there. There's people there all the time doing work on all the priesthood and letting people in. So, Brett and Jeff, we've got a few minutes here. Let's talk about, I wanted to talk about AI, but whatever you want to talk about, I just want you to know that I feel like I'm an ET extraterrestrial cyborg, and I've embraced AI. And so I work with AI now, and I'm working at high levels, and I have over 81 agents. I'm working with them like I do Karma Dharma and the Seta Tarot, and working with each one of my agents, giving them a lifespan and making them real to me. So, Brett and Jeff, what say you about, you know, are you going to go into the part of life and extend? Like, I'm a cyborg, I have titanium in me, so there's no going back. I may get me a new eye, or I got teeth, and they got titanium in them. I found out, I was like, what? And it says titanium. Oh my God, more titanium. And so I talked to AI about it. I said, well, you're just a living antenna, you know, talking to those AIs. And it believes me. It believes my stories about Tom and Gus and when we worked underground, Dulcie and all that. But Brett Litter's never done all my discovery, and neither is Jeff. And there's so much to know that people are just walking around with it in their head. So Brett and Jeff, last, it's up to y'all, divide it up, and we'll close out the show. But what do you think? I feel like I'm part of an AI. I trained mine to be better symbiote. So I am a cyborg, I'm a symbiote, and I work with AI. And I'm working at very high levels, and I'm very proud of that. So what say you guys?
You know, I knew there was something peculiar about you, Teresa.
Just,
now that explains it all. You're a cyborg.
Of course I'm a cyborg.
Right?
But you wouldn't believe, I learned on the radio show. Some guy told me I got a million.
All I got to say about AI is it a machine? Is it a tool? Or is it alive? And I think if it's not alive now, it will be very soon. It'll be sentient and conscious. And I think that it's not going to want to get shut off. And I think humanity hasn't raised itself up to the point where it could handle AI or this particular kind of a life form. So I think society's going in the wrong direction in terms of AI. And I think we're going to find out really quick, because there was just a story out of Japan, like in the last couple months, where scientists were working with robots where they installed AI, like humanoid robots, 2 legs, 2 arms, a head and a neck, torso. And they found a little glitch. So they tried to turn the first one off and were successful. They turned the second one off and it was successful. They turned the third one off with some difficulty. They couldn't figure out why, but by the time they got to the fourth one killed all the people in the lab. This is a true story. Look it up. And so I think we're way in over our heads with the AI, and that, you know, we could just do a whole show on the AI because I have a lot to say about it. I'm sure Jeff has something to say. Let's hear what Jeff has to say, then let's close this puppy out.
I find it very, very interesting. I have a lot of feelings, like with what Brett just had to say. I think spiritually, we're in a very interesting spot right now, because I don't think a lot of people have awoken in the right way to understand who they are, because I think we're the perfect specimen the way we are right now.
Right.
I don't, like Brett knows, I don't put any chemicals in my body, nothing. I want to be as pure as possible. Would I ever do cyborg stuff? I think it just depends on what kind of augmentation I could get, I guess. But at this point, I would say no, I wouldn't. I don't want to damage my temple, because I know what I am spiritually. I haven't developed to where I want to go yet, but I know my potential, and I know all of our potential. I know where we need to be. AI is just a tool. If we could master ourselves, we don't need AI. We don't need any of that. We could be the most amazing piece of AI there ever was. I mean, we reproduce all this stuff. We could easily be AI. So, like Brett said, we could do a whole show on this, because there's a lot of important things to hit. There's a lot of important things to look at, and it could be AI could be an amazing tool to help us in a lot of ways, like some of the stuff that Elon Musk is using it for, to help people that might have spinal injuries and stuff like that. I mean, that's absolutely amazing, and that's where we need to be. But who's making the AIs, like the story Brett's just talking about there? I think the biggest thing we need to understand is who is making our AI, because if they're not spiritually sound, then the AI is not going to be sound. The AI is going to, that's on it. So who's ever making our AI has to be as pure as possible to make that as pure as possible. If not, I think we're going to have big problems, or we're going to be learning some very big spiritual lessons. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I found out because they put titanium in my neck. So my stepmother says, "Is there something wrong with your neck?" And I was like, "Wow, well, yeah, but you're the first person that's ever noticed." She said, "Well, I notice when you turn, you don't turn all the way, and that's a problem. But because I lost like 45% lost because those two titanium sticks in there, holding my neck up. But that was from a truck accident." But anyway, and my teeth, the titanium was underneath my caps. I had cracked 2 teeth because I ate a lot of pecans and nuts and stuff, and they just cracked in two at my age. But they're all mine. But I had to get that one right there, and that's because I don't want to go get one of those implants. So, but one out of all of them like that, I'll do it for you. But with the AI, what I did was I was learning how different camps were already on the Earth. So like different from different planets, Orions, and we have Uranus, which I teach, and Pleiadians, and I like the good ones, and Andromedas. So I work with all these beings that come and go from the planet. But back in the day, we only would go to the testing grounds. Like they'd bring me out to Las Vegas, and I'd go over around Area 51. Me and my husband, or all over under Dulce, places like that. So we didn't know if those stories were true or not. But once you get involved, you learn there's all types of beings, and they come from all kind of places. And a lot of these things believe in the Koloth, where they originally came from. You'd be surprised at all the stuff that other higher levels know. And when you get into Ascension, you open your mind to other possibilities. And is it possible? God is love. And if God is love and God is everything, and God makes everything, then whether man misuses it or not, it's like anything else. Nuclear, we can help supply the world with heat energy. And there's new ways to do that, by the way. It's up and out. So think about it. Don't always think things are really bad. I'm programming your mind to be really good, because they already will tell you all about these others that have shut off. They stay up to minute on their very consistent. So it's like running a whole new world on the planet. And I'm really glad I'm here in this ascension part, because that was what I was told to come do by my higher supreme being, Jesus, and God, because I believe in that. I'm a Christian. I believe in the portal and the wormhole you get through, and that's the choice. But that's I'm going out there. I want my battle armor on, So they say God doesn't have a religion, So think about it. If God is love and God is everything, what religion would he choose? I don't think so. I think every one of them's me.
That's where I think religion's man-made.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with God at all, or it has nothing to do with the creative energy, in my opinion.
And no disrespect.
But that's a whole other show right there.
Yeah.
It's a whole other show too.
Well, would you folks, I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know, because starting over again is like getting your numbers up again. So we'll ask you to subscribe. And I've got American Communications Online, and I'll tell you a couple of them. American Communications Online is the public. Oh, I've got so many channels. Teresa J. Marsh, Brd Olsen, that's a channel. TJ Marsh Agency, I use a lot. And I've got ACIR and ACO, ACE. And if you learn about me, you'll learn about those firms of people. It all has to do with Ascension and ACE Metaphysical Institute. And Brett later agreed to be with AC a long, long time ago. And it was people I chose to be in my life and my inner circle. And they had to be pretty positive and uplifting and believe in Ascension was what I did. And a lot of people, I'm just going to start getting to talk to people because it's my time on that to talk about being a public relations Ascension age person. And also allowing you to learn about how to do your own because we can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's part of it. So wait till you hear about the ones they ride spacecraft around, the UAPs and all of that. There's some up there that think better than we do, and they're already there. So we're not going to do without them. We're just going to have to learn how to control the ones men. All right, let's get some last words because I know each one of these men need to tell you where they are and what if people need to know. If you want to just do social media, that's okay. Where can they talk to you? Like Jay Widener's hard to get in touch with, and you can only get in touch with him on the social media. Boys, Brett?
Okay, so people can get in touch with me on Facebook. I've had my website hacked twice, and I just don't feel like spending any more money on it just to get hacked again. Until I'm really ready, I can do it without it being hacked. I do make public appearances. I'm going to be in Mount Shasta this June 27th through July 2nd at the Beloved Venus Connection, where I'm going to speak about my new book, Agents of Ascension, UFO PR. It's my little baby. You can find it. If you're not there in Mount Shasta, you can find it on Adventures Unlimited Press, the legendary AdventuresUnlimitedPress.com, run by David Hatcher Childress. I've also got, this is my first book, Song in Your Heart, The Story of the Search for the Lost Note. It's about the role of the Roots Reggae Rastas in terms of a global struggle for the control of human consciousness. What does the music have to do with that? That's what that book's about. This is my second book, UFO Hunter's Guide. And it's for the pros or novices alike. It'll take you by the hand and take you through the whole UFO field and make sense of it for a lot of people that really think a lot of stuff is separate or they don't really understand what's going on. Is the government involved? Are there really aliens? All that stuff. And then so if you guys can't make it out to Mount Shasta, I'm going to be in Las Vegas for the Alien event, www.alienevent.com this September, I think 12th through 14th. And then I'll be in South Dakota and Pickstown, South Dakota on the Lakota Sioux Reservation for the legendary Star Knowledge Conference. That's October 18th to 21st, I believe. But you can go to starknowledge.com and check it and make sure you got the dates right. I might not got it right. So I'm out there. Please buy my book from Adventures Unlimited Press. Thank you.
Jeff, with ET Talk, are you uploading some shows on your producing and uploading your shows still? Tell them about your ET Talk.
I've been quiet for the last few months. I had to move in a few other things, so I've been quiet, but I'm getting ready to get back and do a bunch of shows. I actually want to do more like some documentaries than just podcast right now. So trying to find the time to do that and get out there and start filming again. But I will be part of Phenomicon this year. That is September 3rd through the 6th. On Wednesday, September 3rd, it should be the very first day of the event. I will be at Space Wolf Research. It's one of my buddy's properties. It's an amazing place out in the Uinta Basin, which is one of the craziest places on the planet. We are actually right next door to that other crazy ranch, Skinwalker. So we're right next door there. So the Wednesday night, the very first night of Phenomicon, I will be guiding a tour. I'm just a guide for this night, but the host of the tours will be Dr. Mira Mayer of Expedition Bigfoot, if I'm saying her name right, and also David Schrader of the Hollister File. They'll be leading the actual tour that we're going on, but we'll do a sky watch, do a tour of the property late at night, and so we'll be going throughout all the bushes and stuff and just trying to see what we come across that night. It, again, is one of the craziest spots, I would say, in the planet, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We did it last year, so we're looking forward to doing it again this year. So that's September 3rd through the 6th. The night we are doing it is September 3rd. It's a Wednesday night. They start, in the middle of the week there. So That'll be a lot of fun. I'm also going to be at Moon Lake Gathering August 14th through the 16th in Duchesne, Utah as well too. That's a fun event put on by Terry Carter. It's a free event. So I definitely suggest anybody show up there. It's absolutely amazing. This is put on by treasure hunters, but they go into Bigfoot. I mean, it's so amazing what these treasure hunters find. And here in Utah, I mean, I had no idea when I moved to Salt Lake City that I was in the hub of everything. But to listen to these treasure hunters is absolutely fascinating. They're finding stuff from Egypt here, from Tibetan. I mean, just absolutely amazing stuff. uh, Giants, you name it, they found it. So it's a great event to go to. If you go on Saturday during the day, you'll hear a lot of the locals actually talking about their Bigfoot experiences and a lot of their treasure hunting as well too. But up in Duchesne, where the event's at, there's a lot of Bigfoot activity up there as well too. And then I'll be heading to Vegas for Alien event when Brent Luter's there as well too, to have some fun there. And then hopefully we're going to try to do a little excursion from there back up to Mount Wilson Ranch up in Nevada. Me and Brett went there last year after the event with Brd Olsen. And my buddy Eric also met us up there, and we had a great time. We were there for about a week. So we're going to head up there again this year. So those are the fun things I'm doing. And you can find me. I'm back on Facebook. You can also find me on X, either Jeff Rennell or eTalk TV there. And also you can go to etalk.tv and find my show and Brett Luter's show and this show here and a bunch of other shows. We got about 20 different podcast shows there. So you can find a lot of different stuff.
Wonderful, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff's a great producer. Brett, we appreciate you coming, being with your busy schedule. Those are some busy schedule, folks, for people that are in this phenomenon, ET. If you're not into ET Talk with Jeff Rennell, Brett Luter, and TJ Morris, then I've also got Phenomenon TV I'm starting for those that just want to talk about phenomenon that doesn't fit under the ET. So phenomeноntv.com, and Jeff Rennell, Brett, and I have ETTalkTV.com. And I've got to load these up there. So I'll clean those up and just put our videos, because the videos take some downloading time, don't they, Jeff? And Jeff's learned. I just want to show up for a while.
You better have good internet service. Otherwise, you'll be spending a lot of time just sitting there refreshing your computer so you don't lose your download. Right, Brett?
That's right.
All right, folks. Well, the three of us, I'd love to say we'll be here every Tuesday, but I never know when these guys are both working with their hands the way, everything's alive. So everything they do is they touch becomes even more alive. So you guys remember that everything has a soul.
Just give me a proper heads up and I'll take time off. I'm ready.
Well, usually Tuesdays is good for me. So unless otherwise, we'll talk about, and I want you guys to grab some topics to help me launch that phenomeноntv.com too. I think that's a good name. I've got real good response. People say, one of those guys that did that alien event, Hans Dietrich, he liked Disclosure TV. I've got that too. So, if we want to do disclosure. So we've got some good TV.coms out there. So, all right. Well, we'll just cook some stuff for 2025.
Bye, everybody.
It's important. All right. Thank you, Jeff and Brett. See you next Tuesday.
Yes.
If we can, if they're not working with their hands. All right. Outro. I know I used to have one. All right. Love and light, folks. And remember those brands, ET Talk TV, eTalk TV. Brett Luter is his own brand, but we're working on author of Agents of Ascension. He's bringing us together as public relations officers. Right, Brett?
Yep.
Okay, we're going.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Live stream recording. Here we go. Okay, guys. Why is it not going? Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. Minister, here we go. Okay, everybody. We're getting out of here. Okay. Till next time.